Virgo, stop thinking so much. The mistake you're making in your pursuit of success. You think overthinking protects you from making mistakes. But what if this habit of reviewing everything 100 times before acting wasn't about getting it right, but about never having to show someone a version of yourself that isn't quite ready yet? Every Virgo carries an internal laboratory that never closes, testing every decision to exhaustion, cataloging the best opportunities in their own life as almost safe enough, and leaving them there on a shelf while the rest of the world, with half their information, has already acted, already made mistakes, already adjusted, and is 3 steps ahead. There's a specific mistake that almost no Virgo realizes they're making in their pursuit of success. Confusing, mind-boggling with real progress. It's like an engine revving without going anywhere, generating heat instead of miles. It's like a traffic light stuck on yellow, neither stopped nor moving, just flashing, while everything around you keeps going without waiting for you. In this video, I'm going to show you why this pattern exists, what it's really protecting within you, and the exact moment when it stopped being cared for and became the only thing standing between you and the success you work so hard to deserve. There's a laboratory inside you that never closes. The lights stay on, even in the middle of the night, even when your body begs for rest. In this laboratory, every decision in your life enters as a sample. The new job, the message you almost sent, the project that could put you in a place you've always wanted to be, and goes through a test, then another, because the result of the previous one always raises a new question. This laboratory never approves anything as finished. It approves it as almost, and almost, to an outside observer, looks like discipline, looks like care. But inside, those who live there know something that no one else notices. Almost is where the best opportunities of your life have been silently filed away, catalogued as not entirely secure yet, on a shelf that you promise to revisit when you have more data. There is a chess player standing before a board he has studied for years, knowing every opening, every trap his opponent can set 7 moves ahead. The clock ticks, and his hand remains suspended over the piece, because calculating yet another variation always seems safer than playing the one that was already good 3 minutes ago. While he recalculates, time passes over the move that would have worked, and when he decides, the ideal moment has already been replaced by another, slightly worse, slightly later. Do you recognize that silence before the decision? That pause where everything inside you already knows what to do, but a voice asks for just one more check, one more guarantee that this time it won't hurt if it goes wrong. There's a control room hidden behind your eyes, with too many panels, lights flashing for every possible variable. What he'll think, what might be missing, what has gone wrong before in a similar situation. A lone operator tries to read all the displays at once, convinced that by monitoring every signal, no disaster will catch him by surprise. For a while it works. It avoids real errors, preserves relationships that haste would have damaged. This becomes proof that vigilance separates success from disaster. But nobody told you the price. The operator never sleeps properly, never leaves the room to see the result of what he has already decided well, because there is always another panel flashing before he can finally breathe. And the worst part is, while you're monitoring everything, someone on the outside with half the information has already acted. They've already made mistakes, already adjusted, and are already 3 steps ahead. Not because they knew more. They decided before certainty arrived and discovered that certainty never arrives before action. It's born afterward, a consequence of having moved. This isn't about being faster or more impulsive. It's about a question that almost no Virgo has ever stopped to ask themselves, under the light of all those illuminated panels. What if overanalysis isn't protecting you from making mistakes, but protecting you from being seen trying something you haven't yet fully mastered? Because that's the core that nobody names. Overthinking hurts less than acting and failing in front of those watching. And while you're recalculating your next move, there's a part of you that already knows and is just waiting for permission to act, even though he's not sure of anything. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book. The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose speaks precisely to this blind spot of Virgo, the difference between analyzing to understand and analyzing to postpone. It doesn't promise that you will stop thinking. That doesn't need to happen. It shows how to recognize the moment when analysis has ceased to serve decision-making and has begun to serve only fear. It's a change of posture, closing the laboratory when it has already fulfilled its function, instead of letting it run in search of a certainty that life never delivers before acting. You're probably feeling it right now, the discomfort of recognizing a pattern you always called responsibility, but sometimes it was just disguised fear. This window is short. The logical mind is already trying to explain the discomfort to send you back to the routine of reviewing once more before acting. Seizing this moment, while it still hurts enough to be real, is what separates those who change from those who only understand and return to the same place. The link is in the first pinned comment, but be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. As the video continues, think about this. What was the last good decision you postponed so long, waiting to feel more secure that the right moment simply passed you by? Share it in the comments. There's a film editor who's watched the same scene 300 times. He knows every possible cut, every millisecond where the actor's expression changes from sincere to forced. The problem isn't a lack of talent. It's that he can no longer see the scene as a spectator. He can only see it as a technician. And while he reviews the same frame for the 30th time, looking for a flaw that may not even exist anymore, the deadline passes, the project loses momentum, and someday someone less careful will deliver a simpler version and take the space that was rightfully his. You've done this before with one of your ideas. You've revised it so much, adjusted it so much, polished a detail so much that no one but you would ever notice, that the good enough version from 6 months ago has become a perfect version that never leaves the drawer. And here lies the most uncomfortable contradiction. The editor doesn't revise the work because they still have doubts about its quality. They revise it because stopping revisions means admitting that it's already their best. And if it's their best and still not enough, the problem is no longer with the work. It's with the person who made it. It's easier to keep revising a painting than to discover that perhaps it was already good a long time ago. There's a difference between revising out of care and revising out of fear, and almost no one learns to distinguish between the two. The first has a deadline, a purpose, a clear point at which it ends. The second has no end because it doesn't exist to improve the work. It exists to postpone the moment when it leaves your hands and becomes subject to someone else's judgment. While it's with you in the drawer, revised for the 100th time, it's still perfect because no one but you has truly seen it. The instant it leaves, it ceases to be an infinite possibility and becomes a real thing, subject to criticism, subject to rejection, subject to the world. And it is precisely this moment that the editor fears more than any technical flaw he might still find in the painting. Because a technical flaw has a solution, another revision, another adjustment. But exposure to the judgment of others has no solution other than to endure it. And enduring what one cannot control is, for a mind trained to control every possible variable, the most uncomfortable sensation there is. There's a traffic light inside you that's stuck on yellow, not red, which at least forces you to stop completely and rest from the decision, not green, which would simply let you cross. Yellow, the signal of caution, of almost, of wait a moment longer before going. And the problem with yellow is that it was never meant to last. It exists as a half-second transition between two clear states. But in you, that half-second has become a permanent state, a place where it's possible to live for weeks, months, sometimes entire years of a lifetime. While your traffic light flashes yellow, cars behind you honk. The opportunities that depended on your response follow their own clocks, indifferent to your internal analysis process. A client expects a proposal you already know how to make, but are still refining. A person expects an answer you already know how to give, but are still choosing the right words. And each additional minute of yellow doesn't make you more prepared. It only makes those behind you more impatient and those ahead further away. The reason you get stuck precisely at the yellow flag and not at the red or green flag is simple and uncomfortable. Stopping altogether would be admitting you've given up. Moving forward would be risking a visible mistake. The yellow flag allows for both things at the same time. It seems you're still working on it, without ever needing to publicly prove that the ready-made answer has existed within you for much longer than you'd like to admit. There's an additional trap in this perpetual yellow light. It gives you the feeling of doing something. You're not standing still. You're thinking, weighing pros and cons, working through the issue internally. And since all this mental activity is invisible to an outside observer, no one questions it. You convince yourself that this internal movement equates to real progress. But a yellow light, no matter how long it flashes, never produces a single meter of movement. It only consumes the time in which that movement could have occurred. Notice the pattern. You don't freeze at the yellow flag because you lack the ability to decide. You freeze because deep down you know exactly what the right decision is, and it's precisely this certainty that's frightening. If you already know what to do, there are no more structural excuses for not doing it. All that remains is courage. And courage, unlike analysis, cannot be outsourced to yet another research project, another opinion, another day of reflection. If you've recognized that flashing yellow light within you just now, you know what I'm talking about. That almost ready state that lasts too long. The digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose, was written with this in mind. How to recognize the moment when the signal should have already turned green, even without all the certainty that Virgo wants before moving forward. It exists to help you get out of this eternal state of transition and finally cross over. The last copies are selling out fast because more and more Virgos are tired of being stuck in their own yellow. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. Every engine has a limit to its RPM before overheating. It's designed to spin fast, generate power, and propel the car forward. But there's a point where spinning any higher produces no further progress, only heat. Heat that wears down parts, consumes fuel without generating any mileage, and if ignored for too long, ends up seizing the very engine that should be taking you somewhere. Virgo's mindset is designed to accelerate results, to analyze quickly, to notice details that no one else sees, to anticipate problems before they happen. This engine is real, it's valuable. It's what separates you from so many people who act impulsively and pay dearly later. The problem begins when you confuse spinning faster with advancing faster. You've already spent hours dwelling on the same worry without producing any new decisions, any concrete steps. Just heat, just wear and tear. Just that feeling of mental exhaustion at the end of the day, even without having, in practice, solved anything. And the cruelest part is that this overheating mimics productivity. It looks like effort. It looks like dedication. From the outside, nobody notices the difference between an engine that moves forward and one that just spins, emitting smoke. Only you feel the heat inside, knowing that tomorrow you'll wake up as tired as you are today, having thought about everything and resolved almost nothing. An experienced mechanic knows that the solution to an overheated engine is never to rev it faster, trying to force it out through the excess power. The solution is to downshift, let the system cool down, and only then accelerate intentionally, knowing exactly where that force will be directed. Virgin rarely learns this lesson from the factory because stopping the engine even for a moment feels dangerously like giving up. But there's a huge difference between turning off the engine and simply letting it run in a gear that produces forward momentum instead of smoke. The question that almost no Virgo allows themselves to ask is, out of the last 10 times you thought hard about a problem, how many of those times did the thinking actually change something concrete in your life? And how many were just the engine idling, generating the comfortable illusion that taking care of the problem internally was, in some way, solving it externally? That burning sensation you feel after hours of dwelling on the same problem without making any progress has a name, and there's a solution. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose shows you how to channel that Virgo mental power to produce real progress instead of letting the engine spin in vain, consuming you from the inside without taking you anywhere. It's about transforming the same energy that currently leads to exhaustion into real fuel for what you want to build. The stock is running out fast. More and more people are discovering this content and securing access before it disappears. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. An experienced diver carefully checks their oxygen tank once before descending. Then they trust their equipment and surrender to the depths, because they know that constantly checking the gauge every 10 seconds down there doesn't change the amount of air available. It only steals attention that should be focused on their surroundings. But there's another type of diver. This one has already descended, is already surrounded by the beauty they came to see, and yet their hand doesn't leave the gauge. They check it again and again. Each time you check, you waste a little more air just from the anxiety of checking, and still don't truly enjoy the reason you dived. You recognize this gesture. It's the same hand that reopens the same conversation already resolved, that reviews the same email already sent, that mentally replays the same meeting already finished, searching for a detail that might have gone unnoticed. It's not the oxygen that's at risk. It's your presence in the moment when you've already achieved what you came for, but you can't stay there, because checking again seems safer than simply trusting that the preparation you did before going down was sufficient. And here's the cruelest paradox of all. The more you check the tank, the less time you have left to experience the depth that only exists while you're there, breathing, present, without needing to prove anything to anyone, not even yourself. There's a question that separates the diver who enjoys their time from the diver who merely survives. What exactly do I think I'll discover on the 11th check that the previous 10 didn't show me? The answer, almost always, is nothing. The meter already said everything it had to say the first time you looked. Subsequent checks don't seek new information. They seek the momentary feeling of relief that comes from doing something, even if that something doesn't change the reality of the available oxygen in any way. And while that hand insists on returning to the meter, life around you continues to unfold without asking permission. The colorful reef, the light filtering through the water, the rare moment that brought you there, all of this continues to exist, indifferent to your anxiety. The only thing that is truly lost, check after check, is not the air in the tank. It is your own presence in the only moment you had available to experience it. If your hand also doesn't leave the meter, even after you've done everything right, there's a way to learn to trust the preparation you already have. The divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose speaks directly to this. How Virgo can stop checking what's already resolved and finally inhabit the moment they've worked so hard to achieve. It's not about relaxing your attention. It's about knowing when it has already fulfilled its role. This content has been frequently taken down due to demand, so secure your copy now. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a compass inside every Virgo that spins endlessly, searching for the most accurate north possible before taking a single step. And perhaps this search will never truly disappear. It's part of who you are, the same sensitivity that makes you perceive what others don't see, that makes you care for what others leave broken. The mistake was never having this compass. The mistake was believing it's only useful after it stops spinning completely. No compass finds its exact north standing still, alone, on a table being observed forever. It finds north while the body moves. It is movement that makes the needle settle, not immobility. Perhaps your success has never depended on thinking again before acting. Perhaps it has always depended on acting with the needle still swaying a little, trusting that it will settle on the path and not before it. You don't need to shut down what makes you who you are. You just need to stop demanding from your mind a certainty that no mind of any sign has ever had before taking the first step. The perfection you seek so much isn't in the perfect answer before acting. It's in the quiet courage to move forward while the compass is still turning, trusting that it, as it always has, will find its north along the way, because that's how the best destinies of Virgo have always unfolded.